quite a while now, the advice has been that we will have to decide which strategy we want to focus on, be it front runner, pace chaser, late surger or end closer. This is because a game becomes a lot more demanding of our carrots. Unfortunately, I'm greedy and I don't particularly want to pick any specific running strategy. I want to run what I want to run, but I also want it to be competitive. So I'm going to find out if I truly need to pick a lane. So first, let's make some assumptions about what I'm going to be doing. The first is that for any character I want to pull for, I will go to 200 pulls, effectively going all the way to pity. The second is that for any support card I want to pull for, I also want to make MLB. There will be no LB1 is usable or all of the benefits are locked to LB3. I'm looking to go max and get the most power that I can from these cards. The third assumption is that I will buy the 7,500 carrot pack available every full and half anniversary, along with all the selectors. This is both for the paid characters and the paid support card ones. And last, for those characters that I've decided to use the selector to get, I will not assume that I pull them before I am able to use the selector. As an example, let's say I pull for Mr. CB in Grandmasters. If one of my selector choices is Narita Bryan Blaze, I will not assume that I pull her on the Mr. CB banner. I could pull for everyone else in the game but her, and that's the way I'm going to play it. So with that out of the way, let's see if I can truly have my cake and eat it too. Currently in game, I have 20,739 carrots. The first problem that I have is that I will not be able to pull for Aston Machan. I don't have the necessary carrots to ensure that I'll be able to get her in 200 pulls. Neither do I have enough pull tickets to help me get there either. Luckily for me, I'm still yet to buy the 7,500 carrot pack for this half anniversary, but I also want to make sure that this doesn't hurt my future pull plans in trying to get another character or another support card further on down the line. So I will have to work my way forward to see if I'm able to pull for Aston Machan when her banner drops later this month. In Grand Live, there isn't a lot I want to pull for. The big rerun banners, Marazensky Speed and Fine Motion, along with Super Creek and Mr. CB. Other than Marazensky, I have the rest of those other 3 cards at MLB, so I can safely skip them and not worry too much about getting Marazensky, saving my carrots for things further on down the line. And for characters, I can simply wait until I have access to the selectors in Grandmasters, so I can skip every character and most of the banners in Grand Live, except for one, and that is the Valentine banner, as I really want to get Valentine Ines Fujin, especially if it's going to mean that she's going to be one of the top used racers for League of Heroes. Luckily, at this point, I will have 630 pulls worth of carrots and 68 Uma tickets to use on this banner. And with that, I can finally move into Grandmasters, ensuring that I have everything that I want. So now let's take a look at the selectors. For the support cards, I will be selecting Marazensky, which is why I skipped her rerun banner. And for the character selectors, one of them will be the example I gave earlier in the video, and that is Narita Bryan Blaze, and for the second one, it will be Kiddison White, otherwise known as New Year Kiddison Black. So with that, I'll have MLB Marazensky Speed going into Grandmasters, one of the best pace chaser long distance runners in Narita Bryan Blaze, and an additional front runner to help with League of Heroes. So everything is working as intended so far. So before I go into the plan for Grandmasters, we must first establish what the best deck to take in Grandmasters will be. This way I'll know what cards to borrow and what cards I'll need to pull for. In Grandmasters, the deck will look like 2 speed, 2 wit, the POW card, which will be Ancestors and Guides, and a flex card. And because I'll want to run everything I want to run in Grandmasters, that means I will have to pull for Ancestors and Guides. But let's forget about that for now. At the start of Grandmasters, I will have a total of 1,183 total pulls. For the support tickets, I'll have 76, and for the Uma tickets, I will have 17. The characters in Grandmasters that I want to pull for are Mr. CB, Daichi Ruby, Kimberly Chris S, Sakura Laurel, and Neo Universe. I want Daichi Ruby because of the way she interacts with Daitaku Helios, and I find it quite funny. As for Kimberly Chris S, Sakura Laurel and Neo Universe, I've played this game on the Japanese version, and I started right around when Simberly Chris S dropped. So Simberly Chris S, Sakura Lowell and Neo Universe are all the characters that I've played with when I started on the Japanese server. So of course I want to bring them to my account on Global, with the cards being Meijiro Ramono, Ancestors and Guides and Mahono Bourbon. And with all of this coming out at the start of the scenario, this gives me very little time to save any additional carrots, so I'll have to be very careful if I want to pull for Aston Machan. For the characters alone, I'm looking at 1,000 pulls. Luckily, the UMA tickets will help alleviate some of this pressure, and with 76 support tickets, that should also help me achieve my goals of MLBing both Meijiro Ramono and Mahono Bourbon. The issue is Ancestors and Guides. This is where I will break one of the assumptions I outlined at the beginning of the video, and that is to MLB every card I pull for, as Ancestors and Guides is the scenario PAL card, or in this case, the group card. And in order for me to have a deck flexible enough to cover all of the strategies, I will need at least one copy of this card. So I will be going and putting 200 pulls on this banner. For Meijiro Ramono, I will be using the 76 support tickets, and we also seem to get 120 free pulls on this banner. So that means I only need to put in 204 pulls for a total of 400. Mahono Bourbon Wit is also in a similar position. We gain 83 pulls on this banner. I will have 12 support card tickets, so that means I only need to have 108 pulls to go to 200. In this case, I will be using Limit Break Crystals to get this card MLB. I can safely play Grandmasters with everything that I want to get out of the scenario. I'll have every character I want and the support cards to help me compete in the scenario. So with that, let's take a look at what the deck would look like for all the positions. Starting with frontrunners, for speed I'll have Marazensky and Kittison Black. For my 2 wit cards, I'll have Meijiro Ramono and Mahono Bourbon wit card. I will have my own Ancestors and Guides, so that means I can borrow whatever card I need depending on what race I'm training for. For Page Chasers, I'll have Agnes Tachyon and Kittison Black as my 2 speed. For my 2 wit, I'll have Fine Motion and Meijiro Ramono, and of course I'll have my own Ancestors and Guides, which again means I can borrow whatever card I need depending on the situation. For Late Surgers, I'll have Kittison Black and Agnes Tachyon as my 2 speed, Mr. CB along with Meijiro Ramono as my 2 wit cards, and of course my own copy of Ancestors and Guides, which means I can borrow whatever card I need for the situation. And for end closers, we can pretty much copy and paste the same as Late Surgers. However, if I'm running Mr. CB, I will have the option of putting in an MLB version of Admire Vega Power, as well as the option to borrow Sweep Tosho Wit. So all in all, so far, in Grandmasters and in Grand Live, I'm able to run everything I want to in both scenarios. Unfortunately, I am still without Aston Machan. I still haven't forgotten about her, but luckily, when we get to Lark, there are 2 character selectors, so it looks like one of them will be used for Aston Machan. I'm a little bit upset that I can't get her right away, but at least I'll get her eventually. So in this case, I will be able to have my cake and eat it too. It will just be a while before I can actually get the cake. For the second selector, I've decided to go with Hoko Terume. There's no real reason, I just like her design. And for the support cards, I've decided to go with Jungle Pocket. When she releases in Grandmasters, this will probably be one of the cards I borrow when training Late Surgers and End Closers for medium and long races. So I'll want to secure her here in order for me to not have this card be used as a borrow slot. And with the selectors, I'll have this card at Limit Break 2. Not quite MLB just yet, but don't worry, there's ways around it. As a month later, we'll gain access to a trainer support pack, allowing me to buy an additional character selector and another support card selector, bringing her up to LB3, which means I only need 1 Limit Break Crystal to MLB the card. And if you're curious who I'll be selecting for that character selector, it will be Daitaku Helios. I don't think I really need to explain why I want Daitaku Helios, but here's an example as to why. And now we're in Lark, so we once again need to establish what the best deck would look like, and that is 2 speed, 1 wit, the scenario PAL card, which in this case is Mei Satake, and 2 flex cards. So as we move into Lark, the position based decks I showed earlier should work very well in the new scenario, especially with the addition of Jungle Pocket. But let's move on and talk about what I'm going to be pulling for in Lark. I have 1 character and I'm only going to be pulling on 2 support banners. The only character I will be pulling for in Lark is Narita Top Road. For those of you who have seen Road to the Top, she needs no introduction. And for the support cards, they are the Mei Satake and El Condor Pasa banner that drop in Lark, and the last one will be Duramente's Speed and Satono Diamond Whip. The most important cards I will be skipping will be Majoro McQueen Whip and Sounds of Earth Stamina. Majoro McQueen will be the go-to card for Pace Chasers for a very long time, and Sounds of Earth is the upgraded version of Super Crit. However, with the accelerated schedule that Global has, it won't be too long until she is overshadowed by another card later on down the line. I also have Super Quick MLB, so I don't need to concern myself with Sounds of Earth right now when there's other banners that take priority. Although Sounds of Earth is better than Super Quick, the difference between the two isn't that much, so there's a good chance I can get away with continuing to use Super Quick. But let's look at the numbers. At the start of Lark, I'll have a maximum of 839 pulls in carrots, with 41 Uma tickets and 41 support card tickets. This means that I'll only need 159 pulls for Narita Top Road, and for the Mei Satake and El Condor Pasa banner, as it seems we'll get another set of 100 free pulls on this banner. If we include the 41 support tickets I have, I will only need 459 pulls in order to reach 600, which should be enough, hopefully, to get me MLB for both of these cards. And the final support banner I will be pulling for in Lark is Duramente and Satono Diamond. This was the New Year banner on the Japanese server, so that means we're getting 100 free pulls on this banner. If we include the 38 tickets I would have gotten throughout Lark, that means I only need to do 262 pulls to hit 400. The aim here is not Duramente. It is in fact Satono Diamond, as Satono Diamond is the major wit card for late surges at this moment in time. And with the game looking to move into a single wit card deck, I have a feeling I will need to pull for all of the wit cards going forward. And that will see me through the end of Lark. It's a bit difficult to tell if Majora Ramono on her own will be able to see me through most of Lark, especially if I'm missing Majoro McQueen for Pace Chasers, but there is still an option in which I could borrow it, but we'll have to see when we get there. And of course I won't have Sounds of Earth, but I'm confident that Super Creek can carry me through the rest of the scenario. So let's take a look at what the deck would look like in Lark, and we'll start once again with frontrunners. With the scenario favouring 2 speed cards, we will now include El Condor Pasa and Marizensky for frontrunners, with the wit card continuing to be Mahano Bourbon. Of course I would have pulled for Mei Satake on the El Condor Pasa banner, so I'll have my copy of her here, with my flex card being either Super Creek or Haru Urara depending on which race I'm training for. So I'm pretty safe with frontrunners, with still being able to borrow whatever card I need to depending on the race. For Pace Chasers, this is where it gets a little bit tricky. We'll have my 2 speed cards in El Condor Pasa and Agnes Tachyon. My wit card is more often than not going to be Majoro Ramono, at least until Majoro McQueen comes out, and then at which point I may use that as the borrow whenever I train Pace Chasers. And for the other 2 support cards, I'll probably use Super Creek and Haru Urara. I will have to look to see if there's anything else I can include in the deck depending on what I'm training for, so I may be hurt when training Pace Chasers. For late surgers, I will have El Condor Pasa and Jungle Pocket as my 2 speed cards. Of course, I'll still have Mei Satake. For my single wit card, I will still be using Majoro Ramono, and I'll have Satono Diamond when she releases, with my flex card being either again Haru or Super Creek, which allows me to borrow any card I really need depending on the situation, and the same can be said for end closers. However, here the wit card will change from Majoro Ramono to Mr. CB if I'm not doing a mile or medium, so I'm pretty safe when I train frontrunners, late surgers and end closers in Lark. So far there are no real issues outside of Pace Chasers, but this problem will be resolved in the later scenario, UAF. So at this point I'm still able to relatively play exactly what I want when I want to. We now move into UAF, and for the selectors I will pick Majoro Ramono, because who doesn't like Ramono, and Anime Collab Kitterson Black. At this point I'll have all 3 versions of Kitterson Black. Someone must think I'm in love with her. And for the support cards, like I mentioned earlier, the problem of not having Majoro McQueen will be resolved here, as I'll use all 3 selectors on her and then only need 2 limit break crystals in order to max out the card. And having McQueen here will be essential going forward, because if we take a look at what the most efficient deck in UAF will look like, it is similar to Lark. The deck still includes 2 speed, and 1 whip, with the POW card Ryoka Tsurugi, which will be essential for this scenario. We now also take a Guts card, but not just any card. It is the Orphova Guts card, the strongest Guts card in the game when released. So of course, Orphova and Ryoka Tsurugi will be included in every deck, with the final card being a flex one, so I should be relatively safe in the UAF scenario. We also have something else we now have to keep in mind, and that is the duration of the scenario itself. In Japan, the scenarios that we have been playing in Global so far have lasted 6 months. With the accelerated schedule, this has been sped up to 4 months on Global. In the Japanese server, scenarios now lasted 4 months instead of 6. As a global player, I don't think this will make much difference to us, but we'll have to see when we get there. There is 1 support card banner and 3 character banners. For the support card banner, as you've probably already guessed, it will be Orphova and Ryoka Tsurugi. This is the support card banner that drops with UAF and will be the most important banner of the entire scenario. The characters I'll be pulling for Duramente, Transcend, and Jungle Pocket. I want Duramente because her design is absolutely amazing and I've watched season 3 of the anime. I also like Transcend's design, so I'll be pulling for her as well, and Jungle Pocket was in a movie. Jungle Pocket is also quite interesting because at this point Cygames decides to release limited Umamusume, but not in the traditional sense in terms of other gacha games. When they mean limited, they merely mean you cannot get them from a selector. You can pull for them off banner like any other Uma, but you cannot use a selector to acquire them. So this is why I will be pulling for Jungle Pocket now, as I won't be able to use a selector for her. Also take note that when a limited character is released and is on banner, they increase the rates for 3-star characters, so you're more likely to see more rainbow doors than ever before. So it's a good way for new and existing players to round out their roster. So let's quickly run through the numbers. At the start of UAF, I will have a total of 1,400 pulls from characters, with 60 UMA tickets and 22 support card tickets. So when it comes to the Orphova and Ryoka Tsurugi banner, I will only need to put in 456 pulls. This is also taken into account the 123 pulls that we'll get on the banner. So similar to Mei Satake and El Condor Pasa in LARP, I'm hoping that 600 pulls will be enough to secure Orphova and Ryoka Tsurugi at MLB. When pulling for Duramente, I will be using the 60 UMA tickets, which means I only need 140 pulls to hit pitting. Surprisingly, Transcend apparently comes with 10 free pulls, which means I only need to put in 190 pulls to secure her. And finally, when Jungle Pocket arrives, I will have 41 UMA tickets, which means I only need to put in an extra 159 pulls, safely securing everything I want in UAF. For those of you keeping track of the support cards I'm using, you may have noticed that there isn't a dedicated end closer with support card. Unfortunately, that's because it drops in UAF. That card is Narita Taishin, which I will be skipping, and will obviously be one of the major cards I will not have access to in UAF unless I borrow it, but I'll be able to get her the same way I got Major McQueen, so this won't be a problem to wait a little bit longer in order to get my own copy of Narita Taishin. So with that, let's look at the deck that I'll be using in UAF. For frontrunners, it will be exactly the same, except now will include Orphova Guts and Ryoka Tsurugi. I still will be using the same 2 speed cards, and I will still be using the same wit card, so nothing here has changed, which means I'll be able to borrow anything I need to run in UAF. This also applies to Pace Chasers. Now that I have Major McQueen, I'm now able to borrow anything I need when I train Pace Chasers. The same can be said for late surges as well, as I'll still have Jungle Pocket and El Condor Pasa. I'll now be using Ryoka Tsurugi and Orphova, and I'll have the main wit card in Satono Diamond. The only issue here is end closers. As I've mentioned, I will not be pulling for Narita Taishin, but as I have the components of the rest of the deck, it may be a borrow option, especially if I can get away with using Super Creek or Admire Vega Power instead. That way my borrow slot can be locked to Narita Taishin, but considering how strong the card actually is, I don't think this will be much of a problem. So that's 3 scenarios down and 3 scenarios in which I'm able to run whatever I like. There have been a few hiccups along the way, but all in all, I can safely feel that I'll be competitive enough to run any racing style in the game and actually compete in Champions Meetings and League of Heroes. So we now move into the next scenario, and that is the Great Food Festival. Great Food Festival follows the same deck structure as UAF. We still take 2 speed cards, have 1 Guts and 1 wit card. We also have a new PAL card, which is Akikawa Yayoi. If you think that name sounds familiar, it's because she is the director of Tracing Academy. And for the final card, it's a flex card, which means that's probably going to be the borrow slot. So my already existing deck works perfectly because of the cards I pulled for in UAF. So let's start with looking at what I'll be pulling for in Great Food Festival. The first, as you can probably guess, will be the support card banner that drops alongside the scenario itself, and that is Akikawa and Nishino Flower Power. The second support card will be the Still in Love speed card, and for the 2 Umas, they will be Gentle Donna and Bubblegum Fellow. I want Gentle Donna because I've seen the real life race between her and Orphiva, so I really want to test both of them out in a CM together to see which one comes out on top in a final. And for Bubblegum Fellow, I just took one look at her and decided that that's what I want. As I mentioned previously, scenarios on the Japanese server now lasted 4 months, which means the half anniversary drops in the middle of Great Food Festival rather than at the start. Gentle Donna and Still in Love will be the half anniversary banner for this year, which means I'll have to wait a little bit longer in order to use both the characters and the support card selectors this time around. So let's talk about the selectors first before I go into any detail about Great Food Festival. For the characters, I will select Dream Journey and Colston Light O. And for the support cards, this time it will be the Narita Taishin Wit card that I skipped in UAF. I will also need 2 Limit Break crystals to fully max out the card. I want Dream Journey because I want to run the Stay Gold family all together as a CM. And the reason I want Colston Light O is because I think it's funny that a girl has one single-minded purpose, and that's just to go fast. She's also really good on sprints. So let's start by taking a look at the numbers. For the Akikawa and Nishino Flower banner, we get 83 pulls, and I'll have 41 support card tickets to use on this banner. So I'll only need 479 pulls to go to 600. Again, fingers crossed, I MLB'd both of these cards here. For Gentle Donna, I will have 26 Uma support tickets, so that means I'll only need 174 pulls in order to go to max pity. And for Still in Love, we get 103 pulls as it's the anniversary banner, and I'll have 26 support card tickets, meaning I only need to go and put in an extra 274 pulls on this banner. For Bubblegum Fellow, I'll have 27 Uma tickets, so that means I only need 173 pulls in order to secure her here. During Great Food Festival, there will be 1 support card that I miss and also 1 very strong character that I'll be skipping. For the support card, it will be the new speed card for frontrunners, and this comes in the form of Smart Falcon. And for the character, it will be Halloween Mayano Top Gun, another very strong option for frontrunners in League of Heroes. He also has a very strong recovery unit that will be used for a very long time to come. This could be a very tough ask when training frontrunners, but if I have the rest of the deck, borrowing Smart Falcon might not be the worst idea in the world. And if I really need to get Mayano Top Gun's unique on my aces, I can simply use her as either the borrow for my parent or try and use it for one of my grandparents. So again, there's ways to work around the problem. So with that, let's take a look at the decks I'll be using in Great Food Festival. And we'll start this time with end closers. As I'll have my own copy of Still in Love, I will now include that in near enough every deck apart from frontrunners. So for my 2 speed, it will still have El Condor Pasa, and this time will include Still in Love. My wit card will be Narita Taishin, which I would have acquired through the selectors, and with both Yayoi and Nishino Flower being mandatory for the scenario, I will have another option to borrow anything I want during the scenario, although I probably think it will still be Orphiva Guts. For late surges, I will have the 2 speed of El Condor Pasa and Still in Love, and including the mandatory support cards in Nishino Flower and Akikawa. Once again, my wit card will remain the same in Saturno Diamond, which means I have a flex option that I can pick any card I need depending on the race. And for pace chasers, the deck it will largely be the same, except for my wit card, it will be Major O McQueen, once again giving me the option to borrow any card I need depending on the situation. Unlike in the other scenarios, frontrunners now actually become a little bit easier, as I'll have the rest of the components to make up the deck, including the flex cards of Orphiva Guts. This means that whenever I train a frontrunner, I can just use Smart Falcon as my permanent borrow. That way I'm still able to make a competitive runner without the need of having the card myself, especially when it comes to Great Food Festival. We'll have to see if this problem continues when we look at the next scenario, and that is Umamusume. Mecha Musume opens up with one of the best banners to pull for at this moment in time, and that is because as soon as the scenario drops, we have Air Shakur Stamina and Daiwa Scarlet Whip. Air Shakur is the reason why I wasn't too worried about pulling for Sounds of Earth back in Lark. If we were playing on the Japanese server, this would have been a lot longer to wait for, but because of the accelerated schedule on global, we probably don't have to wait that long until this card finally drops. Although it would be nice to run both Sounds of Earth and Air Shakur in the same deck, I don't think it will pose much of a problem if I'm still using Super Creek. And for Daiwa Scarlet, this will be the card that frontrunner players take instead of Mahono Bourbon. This card has been with us for quite a while at this point, so it's good to see that we finally get an upgraded version for this Wit card. I will also have to make sure that I get Daiwa Scarlet Wit here, purely because I cannot have anything else as a borrow slot, especially if I'm still going to continue to borrow Smart Falcon until we get to the next selectors. But speaking of deck options, let's look at what the best deck to take for Mecha Musume would be, and it's quite similar to what we've been running over the past couple of scenarios. We still take 2 speed, 1 wit, but this time we now take 2 stamina or a single stamina and a power card. As there's no dedicated power card for Mecha Musume, the last option is a flex, so this works very well with what I've currently been using so far. Other than Air Shakur and Daiwa Scarlet, I will be pulling for Simberly Rudolph, Wit and Majuro Arden Power, and for the Uma I'll be pulling for Narita Top Road and Admire Vega, but this time they're in their Christmas outfits. I want to pull for both Narita Top Road and Admire Vega because I want to run a Road to the Top team when I have access to all 3 characters, and with the option to select what costume they wear, I will be putting them in their original forms. But let's get into the numbers. At the start of Mecha Musume, I will have 1,277 pulls from characters. For the Daiwa Scarlet and Air Shakur banner, I will also have 27 support tickets, and it looks like we get 83 pulls on this banner. So that means in order for me to go to 600 pulls, I only need to put in 493 pulls of my own, hopefully securing both Daiwa Scarlet and Air Shakur. When we reach the Christmas banner, I will have 14 Uma support tickets, which means I only have to put in 186 pulls to hopefully get both Narita Top Road and Admire Vega. But if I'm only able to select one, that would be Narita Top Road, purely because of her unique, works very well as an inherit. And finally, for Simberly Rudolph, Wit and Majuro Arden Power, this was the New Year banner on Japan, so that means we get another 100 free pulls on this banner, and with 23 support tickets I only need to put in 477 pulls in order to hit 600, once again hopefully maxing out both cards. The major card that I'll be skipping in Mecha Musume is a reintroduction of Simberly Chris S, but this time instead of a stamina, she's now a power card. As her stamina card would have been replaced by Manhattan Cafe Wit well before this point, it's good to see that Claw Forward is on another card other than a stamina or a wit one. This way we no longer have to take Manhattan Cafe and can continue to take the Tono Diamond Wit to include this new power card, making late surges much more competitive when training for long races. So with that, let's wrap up Mecha Musume by taking a look at what the deck would look like for all the positions. And this time we'll start with late surges. For my 2 speed, they will continue to be El Condor Pasa and Still in Love. For my stamina cards, it will be Super Creek and a new support card in Air Shakur. And of course for my wit card, it will continue to be Satono Diamond, allowing me to borrow whatever card I need for the situation. But of course when training for long races, that card will be Simberly Chris S Power. For end closers, both my 2 speed and my 2 stamina cards will more likely be the same, with my wit card being Narita Taishin, which also means I have the option to borrow any card I like in the game. For pace chasers, once again the deck looks quite similar, with the 2 speed cards being exactly the same and the 2 staminas also being identical, with the wit card continuing to be Major McQueen. This means I have the option to borrow anything I need. And finally, front runners, and as I've mentioned earlier, the wit card will be Daiwa Scarlet, with one of my speed cards being El Condor Pasa and the borrow being locked to Smart Falcon. The 2 stamina cards will of course be the same as the rest of the positions, being Air Shakur and Super Creek. This should allow me to continue to build competitive front runners for League of Heroes, which brings us quite nicely into the next scenario, and that is Twinkle Legends. So let's quickly go over the selectors I'll be using when we reach Trinkle Legends. For the character selectors, I will be using one of them to get my Ono Top Gun Halloween, and for the second one, I will be selecting Ballroom Daichi Ruby, otherwise known as Blueby. And for the support card selectors, I will finally be getting my very own copy of Smart Falcon. I'll use all 3 selectors on her, which means I need 2 Limit Break crystals to fully max out the card. And that will be where I end for now. As you can see, there is a world in which I'm able to play every position across multiple scenarios, and I'm pretty sure there's a lot of us out there that want to do the same. We just need to follow a plan, and we also need to know what cards we're going to be borrowing in order to get there. I haven't pulled on every support card, and there have been multiple instances where I've been forced to borrow a card throughout the entirety of a scenario in order to get it later if it helps with my pull plan. So maybe some of you watching will also take that advice and do the same. However, this endeavour did not come cheap. All in all, I would have spent over $2,000, essentially the price of a used car. Is it worth it? That's down to whoever pays for that, really. But for me, this is a game that I enjoy and will continue to do so. And to be quite honest with you, I didn't think it would be this much. But this is just halfway through the overall plan. I've done the same thing up until the latest scenario on the Japanese version, so I've still got plenty more to share with you. So let me know in the comments what you're rerunning. Will you be sticking to one style, or will you try to emulate what I've done here? And if you're looking to find out if the latest banner is worth your pulls, we've got a video on the channel that covers that. But that'll be all for now. I now need to figure out how I'm going to pay for all these carrots.